My name is Elizabeth Bellamy. I am 26 years old. The night before my Yale School of Medicine interview, my younger sister Juliet picked up a gallon bottle of Clorox bleach, walked to the ironing board where my only blazer was laid out, and poured the entire thing down the front of the fabric while looking directly at me. She did not stop until the bottle was nearly empty. The wool absorbed it instantly. The bleach hissed against the warm iron beneath. The stain bloomed across the navy fabric, orange and yellow, 18 inches long, spreading the way something permanent always spreads. Slowly, inevitably, without apology. I stood there completely still. My mother, from the couch in the next room, did not lift her eyes from her phone. "Stop making a scene, Elizabeth. It's just a jacket. You're always so dramatic." My father, halfway through a glass of wine, added without turning his head, "Your sister is going through enough. Don't ruin this for her." I wore that blazer anyway. 6 hours later, I sat across from the Dean of Admissions at Yale School of Medicine. He stared at the bleach stain running down the front of my jacket. Then he looked at my last name on the file open on his laptop. Then he looked at me, and his expression shifted into something I had never seen on the face of a stranger before, something that looked very much like recognition. He reached into the second drawer of his desk, withdrew a thin, folded piece of paper, and said with quiet disbelief, "Wait, you're her." What my family had spent years trying to erase was about to become the very thing that dismantled everything they had constructed. If you have ever been the daughter your family quietly decided to make smaller, this story is for you. I grew up in a 5-bedroom colonial in Wellesley, Massachusetts. My father, Lincoln Bellamy, was a managing director at one of the older and more prestigious asset management firms in Boston. My mother, Bridget, sat on 3 charity boards and served on the trustee committee of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. From the outside, we were the kind of family that appeared in the spring edition of the local newspaper's garden tour coverage. Polished, composed, and perfectly arranged. I was the older daughter. Juliet arrived 3 years after me, when I was 3 years old. From the day she was born, my mother spoke about her differently. Juliet had the right kind of face. Juliet had the right kind of laugh. Juliet had the temperament that people carry with them into a room and leave behind when they go. I remember a piano recital when I was 11. I had practiced for 4 months. I performed my piece without a single error. When I came off stage, my mother kissed me on the forehead and said, "You played well, Elizabeth." Then she added, "But Juliet has the kind of face people want to remember. Let her have the spotlight tonight." Juliet was 8 years old. She had not touched the piano in over a year. That was how things worked in our house. When I was 16, I sat at the dinner table and said out loud, for the first time, that I wanted to become a doctor. My father set down his fork. My mother smiled at me the way you smile at a child who has just announced she is going to walk on the moon. The following week, at a charity event in Brookline, I overheard my mother telling a friend, "Juliet wants to be a pediatrician. Isn't that wonderful? She has always had such a gift with children." Juliet was 13. A week after that, my father sat on the edge of my bed with the careful posture of a man who believes he is delivering wisdom. "Elizabeth, medicine is a long road. Your sister has the temperament for it. You are better suited to support roles." That is not an insult. That is an observation. He genuinely believed he was being kind. By the time I was 16, I understood the decision that had been made. They had chosen which daughter would become the doctor. They had simply forgotten to inform me. I applied to Tufts University on my own. I wrote every essay without showing anyone. I was accepted. When I told my parents, my mother said, "Tufts is fine. It's not a school we talk about at dinner parties, but it's fine." My father said, "Don't expect me to fund medical school after this. Your sister is the one we're building toward." I began at Tufts in September of 2017. I worked 2 jobs throughout all 4 years. I took on debt. I did not invite my parents to a single visiting weekend in 4 years. In May of 2022, I graduated with honors in biology. I drove to a small one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, signed a lease for $1,850 a month, and started work 3 weeks later as a patient navigator with the Joint Pediatric Oncology Program at Dana-Farber and Boston Children's Hospital. My role was to walk with families through the medical system, to translate, to interpret, to be consistently present in the moments when the system moved too fast for frightened people to follow. The starting salary was $58,000 a year. My mother, when I told her, asked, "Patient navigator, isn't that more of a volunteer thing? Are they actually paying you for that?" 3 years behind me, Juliet had entered Wellesley College in September of 2021. My mother managed her path the way she managed her charity calendars. There was a private MCAT tutor at $12,500. A personal admissions consultant in Cambridge. Arranged shadowing opportunities secured through donor connections. Anatomy textbooks purchased in advance and placed on shelves like decorative objects. My mother told guests at dinner parties that Juliet had been shadowing at Boston Children's for over a year and that she had a remarkable gift with children. I pulled the visitor badge log later. Juliet had been on the pediatric oncology floor exactly 4 times over 3 years. Total cumulative time, 5 hours and 22 minutes. I had logged 3,200 hours. Only one of us would be told those numbers mattered. And it would not be my mother doing the telling. I need to tell you about Lily before I tell you anything else. Her name was Lily Donovan. She was 7 years old when she was diagnosed with B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia in August of 2022. Her mother, Sophia, was 38, a housekeeping supervisor at a Cambridge hotel who had emigrated from Honduras in 2010. Lily's father, Patrick Donovan, had been a delivery driver from South Boston. He had been killed on I-93 by a drunk driver in 2018, when Lily was 3. Sophia had been raising Lily alone for 4 years when the diagnosis arrived. Attended. So did my mother, who sat on the board of one of the Boston foundations that funded the program. They had never met. Sophia recognized my mother from a photograph I had once shown her on my phone, a family Christmas picture. She approached her, introduced herself, and said, "I have something for Elizabeth." She handed my mother a folded piece of hospital sketch paper. Lily had drawn it with a number 2 pencil. On the back, in small, unsteady handwriting, were 5 words. My mother said she would deliver it that evening. She did not deliver it. I would not see that drawing for 14 months. The day after the luncheon, Dr. Nell forwarded Lily's letter to a man she had trained alongside at Boston Children's in the early 2000s. His name was Dr. Hudson Marlowe. He had moved to Yale School of Medicine in 2018 and become Dean of Admissions in 2022. Dr. Nell's message to him was a single sentence. The first day I walked into room 4B, Sophia was crying very quietly in the far corner. Lily was sitting upright in the bed with her hands folded in her lap, the way you sit when you are trying very hard to be brave and you have not yet decided if you can manage it. The oncology team had just finished explaining the induction protocol. The words had moved too fast. Sophia's English was strong for ordinary conversation, but not for this. She did not know what induction meant. Lily believed they were going to put her to sleep forever. I sat on the edge of the bed and switched to Spanish. I told Sophia that induction was the first month of treatment, the most intense month, the one that would tell us what kind of fight we were in. I told Lily that no one was going to put her to sleep forever. I told her she was going to be very tired for a while. But tired is not gone. Tired is still here. When I stood to leave that evening, Lily reached out from the bed and took my hand. She didn't say anything. She just held it. I didn't know it then, but she had already decided something about me. I came back the following day. Then every day for a week. Then 4 to 6 hours weekly, outside my official caseload, for the next 2.5 years. I read her Charlotte's Web in the chemotherapy room. She loved the chapter where Charlotte weaves the word "some pig" into her web. One afternoon, halfway through that chapter, she looked up at me and said, "Elizabeth, Maybe someone will write something nice about me one day. I told her of course they would. I did not yet understand that I was hearing her plan spoken out loud. Her room had been assigned by hospital lottery, but she treated it like something given to her on purpose. The window faced east. Even on mornings when she could not keep anything down, she watched the sunrise. In April of 2023, after 2 days when she had been unable to eat at all, she watched the light come up over the horizon and turned to me and said, "Elizabeth, the sun came up again. I made it. I'm still here." I wrote that down later. I wrote down the way her window faced east, and how she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat. I wrote it in a personal statement draft on a Tuesday afternoon in April of 2024, in a document I stored on the family Google Drive my mother had created in 2017. I did not yet know that anyone else was reading what I saved there. In June of 2023, Lily relapsed. She was 8 years old. The bone marrow transplant we had hoped for never materialized. The donor matches were never close enough. Through 2024, she grew thinner. By September, hospice had been initiated. In October, her attending oncologist, Dr. Beatrice Nell, a German-trained pediatric hematologist who had been at Boston Children's for 19 years, told Sophia there were no remaining options. Dr. Nell was also the person Sophia would later hand a folded letter to. 2 weeks before Lily died, she asked her mother to write a letter for her. Sophia wrote it in pencil, in her own careful handwriting, exactly as Lily dictated. The letter was 1 page. It would matter more than any document my family had ever produced. On October 17, 2024, Sophia gave that letter to Dr. Nell during morning rounds. "Please give this to someone who can help Elizabeth be a doctor." The following day, October 18, Boston Children's hosted its annual Donor Appreciation Luncheon. Oncology families were invited. Sophia. For when this applicant arrives. Marlowe placed the letter in the second drawer of his desk. Lily died in early November. I attended her funeral. So did Sophia. So did her primary nurse, Kelsey. So did my supervisor, Ingrid. My parents did not attend. My sister did not attend. 3 weeks after the funeral, Sophia came to my Brooklyn apartment carrying a navy wool blend blazer in a garment bag. She had owned it since a job interview years earlier, before Patrick died, and had not worn it since. "Lily would want you to wear something with strength in it," she said. I had no way of knowing then that Lily was already writing the future I hadn't yet arrived at. I submitted my medical school application in October of 2025. I received my Yale interview invitation in January of 2026. The interview was scheduled for Monday, February 16th. My mother called me the Thursday before. "Come home Saturday night. Your father is making his pasta. We want a family dinner before your big day." I hadn't been back to Wellesley in 11 months. I said yes. I wouldn't have, except that I believed a family dinner before a moment that significant might actually mean something. I drove from Brooklyn on Saturday afternoon, February 14th. I hung the blazer carefully in the closet of my old bedroom, which my mother had partially converted into a home office. My father met me at the door. "Elizabeth, good of you to come. Juliet is home from Yale for the weekend, too." Dinner was cold in the way dinners can be cold without anyone raising their voice. My mother asked Juliet about her first-year grades. My father poured wine. When I mentioned the interview, my mother said, "Yes, well, we'll see how it goes. Yale isn't for everyone." Juliet set down her fork and looked at me for the first time all evening. "You know I'm there now. You know what that means." I did not answer. After dessert, I went upstairs to retrieve the blazer. I wanted to steam it for Monday morning. The laundry room opened off the kitchen through a doorway connected to the family room, where everyone had moved to the sofas. I laid the blazer on the ironing board. I plugged in the iron. I turned my back for 8 seconds to fill the spray bottle at the sink. When I turned around, Juliet was standing in the doorway. She was holding a gallon bottle of Clorox bleach. The cap was already off. She walked to the ironing board. She lifted the bottle. She poured it down the front of the blazer and did not stop until it was nearly empty. The wool absorbed it instantly. The bleach hissed against the warm iron plate beneath. The stain bloomed, orange and yellow and permanent, spreading 18 inches down the navy fabric. She looked up at me when it was done. And she smiled. My mother from the couch did not lift her eyes from her phone. "Stop making a scene, Elizabeth. It's just a jacket. You're always so dramatic." My father, half a glass of wine in, said, "Your sister is going through enough. Don't ruin this for her." I stood there with the iron still warm beneath the ruined blazer. I did not yell. I did not cry. I did not throw anything. I had spent years imagining what I would do if my family finally crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. I had rehearsed every version of a scene. What I had not imagined was that when the moment came, I would simply turn the iron off, fold the blazer over my arm, and walk upstairs. Juliet returned to the couch. My mother did not look up. My father poured another glass. I sat on the edge of my old bed with the blazer in my lap for 40 minutes. The orange stain had already cooled into something that was never coming out. I did not try to rinse it. I had spent enough time around hospital laundry to understand what bleach does to wool. And then, sitting there in the quiet of that room, I understood something clearly. Juliet had not done this because she was angry. She had done this because she was afraid. I did not yet know of what. I slept 4 hours. At 5:15 Monday morning, I came downstairs wearing the bleached blazer. The house was dark and still. I did not leave a note. I drove 135 miles to New Haven in silence, through Hartford, through Meriden. The sun came up over my left shoulder somewhere past Wallingford. For the first time in 14 months, I let myself cry. I allowed it for 30 seconds. Then I stopped and kept driving. I parked at Sterling Hall of Medicine at 7:58. I had 3 letters of recommendation in a folder. I had a personal statement rewritten 6 times. I had a bleached blazer and a quiet morning road behind me. I had no idea that the man who would interview me at 11:15 had been waiting 14 months to put a face to a name. There were 3 interview slots that day: 10 a.m., 11:15, and 1:30. The admissions assistant confirmed my schedule at the front desk and added, almost in passing, "Your second interview is with Dr. Marlowe. He requested this slot specifically. That happens occasionally." I noted it. I didn't yet understand it. My first interview, with Dr. Phoebe Linwood, Associate Dean of Student Affairs, went smoothly. She was professionally warm. She asked about my clinical background and made a quiet sound when I mentioned 3,200 hours. "That is not typical," she said. "Most candidates are under 1,000. She did not mention the bleach stain. I had decided I wouldn't raise it unless directly asked. I had decided I would tell the truth when the moment came, the whole truth, not a softened version. At 11:15, I knocked on Dr. Marlowe's door. His office was wood-paneled. Photographs of children's hospitals on the walls. 3 framed awards. A desk with 1 closed folder and 1 open laptop. He stood and shook my hand. He was 60 years old, gray-haired, steady-eyed, with a particular calm of someone who has learned to listen before he speaks. He was silent for 5 seconds longer than was comfortable. He was looking at my blazer. He cleared his throat. "Miss Bellamy, tell me about a patient who changed the way you think about medicine." I had 3 prepared answers for that question. I used none of them. I told him about Lily. I told him her full name, her diagnosis. I told him about Sophia, about Honduras, about Patrick. I told him about reading Charlotte's Web in the chemotherapy room and about her window that faced east. I told him what she said the morning the sun rose after 2 days of not being able to eat. I told him about the relapse, the hospice, the final weeks. I spoke for 6 minutes. He did not interrupt once. When I finished, he did not ask another question. He did not offer a response. He stood up, walked to his desk, and opened the second drawer on the left. He withdrew a thin folder. From inside the folder, he removed one folded piece of paper. He set it on the desk between us. He did not turn it toward me yet. Ms. Bellamy, I want to be certain I'm hearing what I believe I'm hearing. Lily Donovan. B-cell all, diagnosed August 2022. Boston Children's. Mother named Sophia. Father deceased. Window facing east. Charlotte's Web. He paused. You are that Elizabeth? I said. Yes. He sat back down slowly. He looked at the bleach stain on my jacket. He looked at the name in his file. He looked at me. I have been waiting 14 months to meet you. He turned the paper around. I recognized the handwriting before I read the first word. The careful slope of the letters was the same slope as every note Sophia had ever written me about Lily's appointments. But the words were Lily's voice, written in her mother's hand. Dr. Marlowe read it aloud, slowly, without any performance. To the people who pick who is a doctor, please pick Elizabeth Bellamy. She held my hand when I was scared. She told them my words in Spanish when my mommy did not know the English. She read me Charlotte's Web in the chemo room. She is already a doctor in the ways that matter. Please. Lily Donovan, age 9. He set the letter down. He folded his hands. This came to me through Dr. Beatrice Nell at Boston Children's on October 18, 2024. Dr. Nell and I trained together in the early 2000s. She sent it to me with one line, for when this applicant arrives. I didn't know when you would arrive. I didn't know whether Lily had survived. I learned that part afterward. This letter has been in that drawer for 14 months. The silence held for several long seconds. Then he said, Miss Bellamy, there is a second piece of evidence in your file that I cannot legally show you in this room. It was submitted by a third party. But I can tell you this, someone else in your family used elements of Lily Donovan's story in their own application essay to this school last year. I noticed the overlap when your personal statement arrived this past fall. I have been waiting to meet you to understand which version of the story is true. I held very still. I did not speak. He stood and held the door for me as I left. You have one more interview at 1:30. Please take it as scheduled. After today, I will be in touch. There is a formal process for what comes next, and I want to walk you through it properly. I walked out of Sterling Hall at 12:08. I had 82 minutes before my final interview. I sat on a bench beneath a leafless oak tree in the courtyard. I already knew who had been reading the drafts I kept on the family Google Drive. I had known for several minutes. I drove back to Brooklyn that afternoon at a slower speed than I had driven down. I called my supervisor, Ingrid Sandberg, from the road. She picked up on the third ring. Ingrid, did you ever document Juliet's visits to the oncology floor? A pause. She never set foot in our unit for more than 90 minutes at a stretch. 4 times in 3 years. I keep records of every observer who comes through. I told her I would call her back. Then I dialed my mother. She answered the way she always answered when she was performing ease for someone who wasn't in the room. Elizabeth, sweetheart, how did it go? I did not answer that question. Mom, did Juliet write about Lily Donovan in her Yale application essay? The silence lasted 4 seconds. 4 seconds is a long time on a phone call. My mother's reflexes were fast, but her surprise arrived too slowly. Elizabeth, what are you talking about? I had not said Lily's last name. My mother had not asked who Lily was. She had not asked why I was asking. She simply said I was exhausted and suggested I come home. She had known the name. I had never told her. At 9:15 that evening, Dr. Marlowe sent an email to my verified application address. He thanked me for my candor. He outlined the formal options available, including a complaint to the Yale School of Medicine Committee on Honor and Professionalism, the body that handled academic integrity within the institution. He requested a written statement from me about my relationship with Lily and her family, and confirmed he would contact Dr. Nell to verify the chain of custody of the letter. He attached a one-page summary of the committee's process. Complaint filed and reviewed in 2 weeks, investigation in 4 to 6 weeks, formal hearing, decision. I scheduled a follow-up meeting for March 3rd. That gave me 2 weeks. I sat on my apartment floor with my laptop and a yellow legal pad. I opened the family Google Drive. I navigated to my personal statement draft, the one I had written in April of 2024. I clicked Version History. The document had been accessed 23 times between March and May of 2024, all by me. There was one entry that did not match my pattern. May 14, 2024. 2:28 in the morning. Account: Bridget Bellamy. No edits. Viewed only. I wrote on the legal pad. Patient Navigator Log, Ingrid will pull. Boston Children's Badge Log, Hospital Security. My draft personal statement, Google Drive Version History. Juliet's submitted Yale essay. Committee can request. Mother's text messages, if Lincoln will hand them over. The drawing. Where is the drawing? That last question was the one I didn't yet know how to answer. That same week, Ingrid sent me 3 files. She had requested them through the hospital's internal volunteer coordination audit policy. She had 24 years at Dana-Farber, and they trusted her without question. The first file was my Patient Navigator Log. 3,200 total hours. 1,180 of those hours were with Lily Donovan and her mother specifically. Bedside reading, translation work, family conferences, hospice support, after-hours visits I had logged because I had been trained never to leave navigator time unaccounted for. The second file was the visitor badge log for Juliet Bellamy. 4 entries. Total cumulative time, 5 hours and 22 minutes, across 3 years. Not one of those visits had taken her into Lily Donovan's room. Juliet had never met Lily. The third file was the clinical handoff notes from Lily's primary nurse, Kelsey. 38 separate entries referenced my presence with the family. Ingrid had attached a handwritten note to the packet. Elizabeth, I have been a social worker for 24 years. I have seen many things. This is among the cleanest contrasts I have ever pulled from our records. Use it carefully. Use it once. 5 hours and 22 minutes. That was the entirety of the relationship my sister had claimed as her own. In early March, Dr. Marlowe called me directly. The call lasted 9 minutes. The committee has completed its comparison of the 2 essays. The overlap is substantial. Specifically, the phrase, her window faced east and she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat, appears verbatim in your sister's submitted essay. The probability of 2 siblings independently writing that sentence about the same patient is, in our view, 0. The committee will require one more piece of physical evidence before escalating to a formal hearing. Is there anything connected to Lily Donovan that exists in your family's possession? I knew the answer. I just didn't yet know where it was. I called Sophia that night. She picked up nervous, the way she always answered numbers she didn't immediately recognize. Sophia, did you ever meet my mother in person? A very long silence. C. Elizabeth. October, before Lily passed. A charity luncheon at the hospital. Your mother was there. I recognized her name because you had mentioned her. I approached her. I said I had something for Elizabeth. She told me she would deliver it that same evening. What did you give her? A drawing Lily made. Pencil, on hospital sketch paper. It showed you sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. On the back, in Lily's writing, 5 words. For when you graduate. Lily, age 9. Sophia, I never received it. A longer silence. Then Sophia began crying, very quietly. Mija, I thought you had it. All this time, I believed you had it. I stayed on the phone with her for 45 minutes. I told her everything. The Yale Committee, Juliet's essay, the letter Dr. Marlowe had kept in his drawer. She listened without speaking. At the end, she said, "What do you need me to do?" I told her I would call her back. There was something I needed to do first. On the evening of March 30th, my father called me. He had not called me in 14 months. "Elizabeth, I need to see you. Not your mother, not your sister. Just me. There are things I should have said years ago. And there are things on my phone that you need to see." We met at a small cafe in Brooklyn on the afternoon of April 1st. He looked thinner than I remembered. He set his phone on the table between us without preamble. He did not look at me. He looked at the table. I let her do this. I am not asking you to forgive me. I am asking you to know. He unlocked the phone and turned it toward me. He opened the text thread between him and my mother and scrolled to May 14, 2024. I read it. 2:31 a.m., Lincoln to Bridget. Just read Elizabeth's draft. The Lily paragraph is the strongest writing in this family. Juliet has nothing close to it. Should I send Juliet the draft? 6:14 a.m., Bridget to Lincoln, that's Elizabeth's work. 6:16 a.m., Lincoln, Elizabeth isn't applying this cycle. She's staying for the hospice. Juliet applies June 1st. It's just giving Juliet material. Elizabeth will write something else next year. 6:21 a.m., Lincoln. 6:22 a.m., Bridget. Lincoln, we have one shot to get one of them into Yale. Juliet's MCAT isn't strong enough on its own. This is parenting. There were 52 more messages in the thread over the following 10 months. My father airdropped the entire thread to my phone. 52 screenshots. And a 142-second voice memo he had recorded the night before, alone in his car, describing what he had known and what he had allowed. "I should have said no," he told me at the cafe table. "I said nothing. That is the same as saying yes." I left with everything I needed. That weekend, my mother called. "Come home Sunday. Your father needs you here. This has gotten out of hand." I went home. Not for her. She opened the front door with her arms folded. "Elizabeth, we can fix this. Drop the complaint. We can make this disappear. Juliet doesn't deserve to have her future destroyed over a single sentence." I asked if I could use the upstairs bathroom. She stepped aside. I walked up the stairs, past my old bedroom, into the master bedroom. I opened the second drawer of her dresser from the top. The same drawer she had told me when I was 10 years old was private, the one I had never opened again until now. Underneath a folded stack of silk scarves, exactly where she had always kept her private things, was a piece of hospital sketch paper, folded into quarters. I unfolded it. Pencil. A child in a hospital bed, and a woman in scrubs beside her, holding her hand. Both of them looking at each other. On the back, in the small, unsteady handwriting of a 9-year-old who was running out of time. "For when you graduate. Lily, age 9. I photographed it where it lay, undisturbed, beneath the scarves, in the drawer, before touching it. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in the inside pocket of my coat. I closed the drawer. I went downstairs. The whole family was in the dining room. Juliet had been notified by the committee on Friday that a formal investigation was open. Her face was raw and streaked. My father was looking at his plate. My mother was looking at me. I placed the sketch face-up at the center of the table. This was given to Mom on October 18, 2024 by Sophia Donovan, at the Boston Children's Donor Appreciation Luncheon. It was meant for me. She kept it in the second drawer of her dresser, under the silk scarves. The child who drew this was 9 years old. She died 3 weeks after she made it. Her name was Lily. Juliet opened her mouth. "Elizabeth, you don't understand." "I have your essay," I said, without raising my voice. "I have my draft. I have the badge log. I have the text messages. I have the sketch, And I have a photograph of where it was found. I am not asking you to understand. I am telling you what happens on Wednesday. My mother reached across the table toward the drawing. I placed my hand over it. She pulled back. You have no idea what you're doing, she said. I picked up the sketch. I held it where she could see it. Lily did, I said. She knew before any of us. I walked out. I did not look back. That night, I called Sophia and asked if she would be willing to speak at the Yale Honor Committee hearing on April 8th, by video conference. She was quiet for 12 seconds. Mija, I will speak for Lily. I told her she didn't have to. I had everything else documented. She said, Lily wrote that letter so somebody would listen. I am the only one who heard her voice that day. I will speak. Then she said, you wear the blazer, Elizabeth. The bleach, too. Wear all of it. The night before the hearing, Juliet called me. Her voice was broken. Elizabeth, please. I will lose everything. I will lose Yale. I will lose my future. I am 23 years old. I made a mistake. Juliet, you did not make a mistake. You wrote 5,000 words about a child you were in the same building as for less than 6 total hours. You watched her die from a paragraph our mother handed you. That is not a mistake. That is a decision you made over months. You don't have to do this tomorrow. Yes, I said. I do. She hung up. At 11:18, my mother left me a voicemail. 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Elizabeth, listen to me carefully. If you do this tomorrow, your sister will be dismissed from medical school. She will never become a doctor. Is that what Lily would want? Lily would want both of you to be doctors. Lily would want healing. You are the one tearing this family apart. Drop the complaint. It is not too late. Your father agrees with me. At 11:23, my father sent me a text message separately. Your mother does not speak for me. Do what is right. I love you. I saved his message. I did not save hers. I woke at 4:45 on the morning of April 8th. I put on the bleached blazer. The orange-yellow stain had faded only slightly from the steaming I had attempted 2 weeks earlier. It was still clearly visible against the navy from across any room. I drove 135 miles to New Haven. I texted Sophia from the parking lot at 8:52. Almost time. Lily is here too. She wrote back, Vamos. The conference room held 6 people. On the committee side, Dr. Marlowe as chair, Dr. Linwood, Dr. Larkin. On the other side, Juliet, with the family attorney, Stanton Hargrove, seated behind her as advisor. A camera on a tripod recorded the proceedings. Ingrid sat against the back wall as a professional reference. A laptop on the side table was connected to a secure video line. Sophia would join at 11:30. Marlowe opened the proceedings. This is a fact-finding hearing under the Yale School of Medicine Committee on Honor and Professionalism, Section 4.2, governing allegations of academic misrepresentation in admissions materials. Ms. Juliet Bellamy is the subject. Ms. Juliet Bellamy is the subject. Ms. Elizabeth Bellamy is the complainant. Counsel is present as advisor only and may not address the committee directly. The hearing is recorded per protocol. Ms. Elizabeth Bellamy, the floor is yours. I opened my evidence folder. I started with the numbers, because the numbers contained no emotion. Patient Navigator Log, 3,200 total hours. 1,180 of those hours specifically with Lily Donovan and her family. My signature on every entry. Boston Children's Visitor Badge Log, Juliet Bellamy. 4 visits. 5 hours and 22 minutes, total, across 3 years. None of those visits took her into Lily Donovan's room. Juliet had never met her. Hargrove began an objection. Marlowe raised one hand. This is not a court. This is an academic integrity hearing. Continue, Miss Bellamy. I placed 2 documents side by side on the table. My original draft from April 2024, with the Google Drive timestamp printed in the corner. Juliet submitted Yale essay from June 2024, provided by the committee. I had underlined one sentence in red on both copies. My draft. April 14, 2024. Her window faced east and she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat. Juliet's submission. June 11, 2024. Her window faced east and she watched the sunrise even when she couldn't eat. Word for word. Dr. Larkin looked at Juliet. And the patient, did Ms. Juliet Bellamy treat this patient? She visited the floor 4 times. She never entered Lily Donovan's room. She never met her. Juliet pressed her hand over her mouth. At 11:30, Sophia's video connected. The audio came through clean and steady. Marlowe asked her to confirm the origin of the letter. She confirmed it, the day she had written it, exactly as Lily had dictated. The day she had handed it to Dr. Nell. Then Marlowe read the letter aloud, slowly, in the same unhurried way he had read it to me in his office 2 months before. To the people who pick who is a doctor, please pick Elizabeth Bellamy. She held my hand when I was scared. She told them my words in Spanish when my mommy did not know the English. She read me Charlotte's Web in the chemo room. She is already a doctor in the ways that matter. Please. Lily Donovan, age 9. He set the original down, face up, on the table. The silence lasted 12 seconds. I counted them. Juliet was crying now. Not performing grief, actually crying. Marlowe asked Sophia if she wished to add anything. She paused. Then she spoke, slowly, in careful English. My daughter Lily, she loved Elizabeth. She did not know who Juliet was. She never met Juliet. I never met Juliet, until October 18, 2024, when I went to a hospital charity event and I gave Mrs. Bellamy a drawing my daughter had made for Elizabeth. She told me she would deliver it. She did not. My daughter died believing Elizabeth had received it. Elizabeth did not receive it until 5 days ago. She paused. I am here today because my daughter wrote a letter so that somebody would listen. I am here so that somebody listens. She disconnected at 11:48. I placed the sketch on the table. The patient drew this on October 16, 2024. She gave it to her mother on October 17. Her mother gave it to my mother on October 18 at the Boston Children's Donor Appreciation Luncheon. My mother did not deliver it. I found it 5 days ago in her dresser drawer, second from the top, beneath a folded stack of scarves. I have a photograph of the location taken before I touched it. Marlowe examined the sketch. Passed it to Linwood. Linwood passed it to Larkin. Larkin nodded. Marlowe turned to Juliet. Ms. Juliet Bellamy, did your mother ever share this sketch with you, or convey any knowledge of its existence? Juliet, barely audible. I don't know. I never saw it. I never knew. The committee will request a separate meeting with Bridget Bellamy as a fact witness. Marlowe called a 10-minute recess. I walked into the hallway. My parents were seated on a bench against the wall. My mother stood the moment she saw Juliet's face. What happened? What did they show in there? Juliet could not speak. My father stood. He took one step toward my mother. He said, "Bridget, they have the sketch." My mother froze. "You told me you forgot," my father said. "You told me that for 14 months. Don't. One word. One syllable in a Yale corridor, in front of strangers, in front of the family attorney, in front of me. Don't. 30 years of marriage." And my father said that one word to my mother for the first time. She stopped moving. He turned to me as he passed on his way back to the bench. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have done this years ago." I went back into the room. When we reconvened, Juliet made one final attempt. I was going through a difficult time. My mother encouraged me. I should have refused. But I was 21 years old. Marlowe let her finish. Then he spoke. Ms. Juliet Bellamy, you were 21 when you submitted the application. You are 23 now. You have completed 8 months of medical school. At no point in that time did you contact the committee, the Donovan family, or any member of the patient's care team to correct the record. The committee will consider these factors. Juliet had no rebuttal. Her attorney whispered to her. She shook her head. Marlowe turned to me. Miss Bellamy, would you like to make a closing statement? Yes. I did not raise my voice. I did not attack. I am not here to destroy my sister. I am not here to embarrass my family. I am here because a 9-year-old girl wrote a letter so that I could be heard. I have been heard now. The committee will do what the committee does. I would like to enter one final thing into the record. Lily Donovan was a person. She had a name. She had a window that faced east. She had a mother who loved her. She had 2.5 years of treatment and 1 nurse and 1 social worker and 1 navigator who saw her through every hour of it. She did not have my sister. She did not have my parents. She had us, and we are still here. That is what this is about. I sat down. Marlowe closed the folder. He looked at my sister and said, "The committee will be in touch." Juliet finally stopped performing. The room was so quiet I could hear my mother breathing in the hallway through the closed door. I drove home to Brooklyn that evening. I did not cry. I had no tears left for that day. I made tea. I sat on the floor of my living room with my back against the couch. I texted Sophia 1 line. "Thank you for speaking for her." She wrote back, "Lily always." On April 15th, an email arrived from Yale School of Medicine admissions. Dear Miss Bellamy, on behalf of the Admissions Committee of Yale School of Medicine, it is my privilege to offer you a position in the entering class matriculating in August 2026. Your file, your essay, and your interview reflected a candidate of extraordinary clinical insight and integrity. We hope you will accept. Hudson Marlowe, MD. I read it twice. I did not cry. I texted Sophia. Yes. She wrote back, Mija. Lily knew. I accepted the offer the next morning. I told no one in my family for 4 days. On April 22nd, the Yale Committee on Honor and Professionalism delivered its decision. Juliet Bellamy was dismissed from Yale School of Medicine, effective immediately, for academic misrepresentation in admissions materials. The letter cited clear and convincing evidence of authorship fraud and willful failure to correct the record during 8 months as an enrolled student. My father called me that afternoon. He spoke for 20 minutes. He did not ask me to reach out to Juliet. He told me he was separating from my mother, that he had already signed a lease in the Back Bay, that he was moving out on the 25th, that he was not asking for forgiveness, only for time to do the next part right. I would like to see you when you're ready. I told him I would see him. I didn't say when. On April 23rd, at 9:14 in the evening, my mother sent me a single text message. You destroyed your sister. I hope Yale is worth it. I took a screenshot. I did not reply. I did not block her number. I left the message sitting in the thread, unanswered, which is its own kind of answer. I had not destroyed anything. I had simply stopped holding it up. On Saturday, May 9th, I drove to Brighton. Sophia lived on the 2nd floor of a brick walk-up off Commonwealth Avenue. She had moved there after Lily died. The Cambridge apartment had held too many ghosts in the hallway. The new place had 2 bedrooms and a kitchen with a small wooden table set against the window. She had made soup. There was a candle on the table. And on the wall above the table, in a frame she had found at Goodwill for $3.50, was the sketch, the original, the one I had returned to her after the hearing. She had framed it herself, and hung it where the light hit it every morning. We ate. We talked about Lily. We talked about Yale. We talked about Patrick. We talked about what Sophia was considering for her own future. She was thinking about studying for her LPN license. After lunch, she stood up and brought a small sewing kit to the table. Inside, a spool of white embroidery thread, a small hoop, a needle. Elizabeth, the blazer. I asked her what we were doing. She just smiled. Para, Lily. She turned the blazer inside out. She opened the interior lining near the left front panel, near where the heart sits when it is buttoned. She fixed the fabric in the embroidery hoop. She threaded the needle with white thread. We worked in silence. Her stitches were careful and slow. I held the fabric taut. The light from the window crossed the table at an angle that did not shift for 40 minutes. When she was done, she cut the thread with a small pair of kitchen scissors. On the inside lining of my blazer, in clean white embroidery, was a single letter. L. She tied off the thread. She turned the blazer right side out. She held it up to the window. The bleach stain was still there, the orange-yellow ghost of February still running down the navy front. But now, on the inside, where only I would ever know, was a letter that would never wash out. Now Lily is with you, Sophia said. Where no one can take her again. She also sewed a small matching L into the corner of her own kitchen apron. So that on different mornings, in different rooms, Lily would be with both of us. I drove home that evening through a Boston sunset that ran orange along the Charles River. The blazer was folded in a garment bag on the passenger seat. The framed sketch was wrapped in a soft cloth on the floor of the back seat. My mother had said it was just a jacket. She was wrong about that. She was wrong about most things. The story she had constructed for our family was, in the end, only a story. One she had been able to maintain for a long time because I had not yet understood how to stop cooperating with it. The story Lily wrote in one page of pencil, in her mother's hand, on a hospital sketchpad when she was 9 years old and running out of time. That was the one that turned out to be true. I moved to New Haven on August 7th. The blazer hangs on a hook by the front door of my new apartment. The sketch sits on the shelf above it. Inside the lining of the blazer, in white embroidery thread, is a single letter that no one else can see. I will start medical school in a city my sister had to leave. I will start it with a child's drawing on my shelf, and a letter sewn into the lining of a bleached blazer. Both of them belong to me now. Both of them belong to Lily.